Okay, I have 1 o'clock. And at this time, I'll read the emergency evacuation procedure. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles. This time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Mitchell. Here. Commissioner Carter. Here. Laura Floyd. Here. Steve Hillis. Here. Glenn Longhurst.
Okay, we have 4 present and 1 absent. Is that correct?
Yes.
The Blount County Government Purchasing Commission will meet Wednesday, September 23rd, 2015 at 1 p.m. in room 430 of the Blount County Courthouse, Maryville, Tennessee. The purpose of this meeting is for the election of chairman, vice chairman, public input on items on the agenda, discussion and possible action regarding raising the threshold of contracts that require competitive sealed bidding. Today is September 23rd, and the time is 1 p.m. At this time, I'll open the floor for nominations for chairman of the Purchasing Commission. Mr. Carter, you're recognized.
I nominate Hillis.
Steve Hillis's name's been put into nomination. Is there a second? Second. Mayor Mitchell seconds. Floor is still open for nominations. Chair will stand for a motion that nominations close.
So moved.
Mayor Mitchell moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Carter seconds. Those in favor of closing nominations say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Nominations are closed. The question is to elect Steve Hillis as chairman of the Purchasing Commission. Discussion on the question. Are the members ready for the question? Secretary, we call the roll. When your name is called, we have to do it by roll call. If you're in favor of Mr. Hillis serving, say Hillis. If you're not, pass or abstain. Call the roll.
Mayor Mitchell.
Hillis.
Commissioner Carter.
Hillis.
Laura Floyd. Steve Hillis.
Pass.
Oh.
So it requires 3 to elect. We have 3. Is that correct? Mr. Hillis, you are the chairman. If you'd like to come forward, you can.
Should we go ahead and do a vice chairman? Is this a live mic? Do you have to turn it on to turn?
The red light indicates that it's on.
And how do you turn it off?
Just by hitting the button underneath it.
Okay. It seems to me we need to elect a vice chairman. The floor is open for nominations.
Recognize me.
Sorry?
Recognize me.
I'm sorry. Mayor, go.
Okay. Yes, I'd like to nominate Laura Floyd, please.
We have a nomination. Do we have another nomination? Do we have a second?
A second.
Sean Carter. Okay. Do we have any more nominations? Have a motion that nomination cease? So moved. Moved and seconded. The nomination cease. Should we have a roll call?
I think so. Commissioner,
Floyd?
what should we do?
Just recognize that he's entered the meeting.
Okay.
We're nominating the vice chair right now, Laura's.
Okay, that's everyone. We have our maximum 3 in a full court there. All right, so nominations have ceased. Can we, you want to just create an election, or you want to vote again, or what do you want to do? I'm a little bit raw at this, so pardon me.
I think it's fine. I think he'll be
Okay, so we will just go with the vice chairman is Floyd, and move on to another business. Should I turn the meeting over to you for a second to?
So if you just want to open up discussion on the threshold, if you'll just read what was on the agenda or on the bottom of the public notice, I think that's what is in the second.
Okay, so we're going to open up the meeting to general discussion, and then vote or comments on what was published for the meeting. Do I have? Should we go ahead and read that, or it's already been published? What do you want to do?
You can read it.
Where's the? We don't have that.
That's fine. If you just want to recognize me, I'll give an introduction.
All right, floor is open. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Katie Branham, and I am the new purchasing.
Oh, here it is over here.
I'm sorry. The packet of information that is on your desk, first let's go through that. It is the TCA regarding the County Purchasing Commission, which you all have been appointed to, which is TCA 514106. The second thing in the information in front of you is a resolution 0708009. The third thing in the information in front of you is the State of Tennessee, Public Chapter number 457. And what this document is the topic of our conversation today. It is specifically related to our bidding process. Currently, if you have any business or anything that's purchased within the county that will cost us between $2,000 and $10,000, they're required to get 3 quotes. Anything over the $10,000 threshold, we have to go out for formal sealed bid. So this particular document has allowed us by the TCA to extend that $10,000 threshold up to $25,000. And I just wanted to open the floor for discussion to know your thoughts on that. And if you have any questions, please ask me.
At this time, up to $10,000 still has to be competitively bid, correct?
Up to $10,000, we have to receive 3 quotes to it.
3 quotes.
Correct.
And then what we're asking is to move that 10,000, from 10,000 on, it has to have sealed bids, correct?
That's correct.
What does sealed bids give us that having 3 bids up to $10,000? what's the pros and cons, and tell me what one gives us that the other doesn't give us as far as being competitive and good stewards of the money, of the county's money.
Well, in my opinion, it's all still competitive, but it allows us to, if we increase the threshold to 25,000, it allows us to drive the quote process. So currently at 10,000, most of the department heads at this point will get their own quotes. If we move it to the 25,000, it will allow us to drive the quote process for them. And as it relates to sealed bids, we would still have the ability to go in and do a sealed bid for anything if we wanted to, if the purchasing department decided to do that. So it doesn't take any discretion away from us. It just allows us to increase for the rate of inflation. It allows us to focus our time on larger projects. And in my personal opinion, as it relates to the stewardship of the money, I feel like we will be better stewards because we'll be able to drive the quote process as well as the sealed bid process.
Mayor, if I might, I'm not sure. One of the things that I thought you were asking by that question was what does the sealed bid get you as opposed to the quote process get you? Primarily, the quote process limits the buy, or authorizes the buy, to a limited number of prospective vendors, 3 in this case. The determination is, how do you get that 3? Part of the concern of the department is that if people either had a bias, not saying they did, but the potential was that if somebody had a bias or lack of knowledge, for example, and they wanted to spend public money, then you had the whole issue is driven by the potential to make a mistake or have issues where the dollar amounts are driven by only 3 items. If the bid process, if the formal bid process is the driver, then the issue is more of a public process, and it depends on your notification and your ability to communicate to the general public and to receive open bids. So in terms of trying to spend dollars, it's the potential is that you have a bigger pool of potential buyers or vendors supplying quality product, goods and services, as opposed to the potential. The other side of that is, and she's correct, is that it gives you, if for example the purchasing department had the ability to be in control of the review process of those 3 items, the 3 vendors, and they did a good review and background and quality control of who was actually, providing that product, and is the quality of product valuable, then hopefully the process would speed up, and the potential for any errors is negated by the professionalism of your department. All right, so on one hand, you have an issue of trying to, open it up. On the other hand, you have an issue of trying to make sure the professional review is intact. And the threshold is whatever the limit is that you're trying to buy and authorize. Any more discussion?
So in essence, what you're saying is the view is valued higher than the bid. With the bid, there's more numbers of people that will come in. As far as with the view, you can take 3 who you think are better, 3, and just find out which is the best out of that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, first off, the 3 is a minimum. I mean, you could have 6, 7, 8 if you wanted in the review process, and just having 3 takes advantage of the fact that there may be some items out there that you really only have 3 vendors. Water material, clamps, hoses, fire hydrants, whatever, you may have only, 3 or 4 vendors that actually even make that kind of thing. So in terms of trying to worry about, do I have 6 or 7 or 8, the market takes care of that. So it's kind of a rule of thumb in the industry that 3 is a quote limit. And then you use you hire good people, you expect them to make professional decisions, and you rely on their decisions to be the order of the day. Well, it depends on how much time and effort the process takes. I mean, if you have a long bid process and you need that product fairly quickly, you do not have a provision currently to react to current issues. So, one of the, it's a give and take. Again, it's a judgment as to the maximum limit, the quantity, and the quality. So and therein, again, you rely on the judgment of your folks, and you could live with what you've got, but in terms of trying to work with all the departments to make sure, it seems to me, that if you had and we had maybe a discussion earlier where kind of off camera, but in terms of the authorization and responsibility. If you have the authorization capability of 25,000, but you have the responsibility or the responsibleness of the people that are actually doing the buying, then you have a quality type of activity. If you have an authorization process, but you don't have the controls that go along with it, then you've just increased the number of problems you've got. So what you want to make sure is that if you do have a larger limit, I would be in favor of maybe honing down the people that are actually doing the initial review. Let the department create the requisition. Let the department or the users define what it is in terms of quality you want and the quantity and the specifications desired. Once that is done, have the third party, have the purchasing department actually do the review and come up with the 3 quotes or whatever. And that way you have a legal handoff and an ability to review positively and spend county dollars wisely, in my opinion.
So in essence, it's just cutting down the review. How many hands it has to go through?
I'm sorry?
To make a decision.
I'm sorry.
So you're cutting down. So you're cutting down how many people have to make the decision to choose whichever group or whichever business or company?
I don't know if you're cutting down the people that make the decision, because what you have are people that make decisions all the way up through the pipeline. And if you've got people at the street level that need something, and you have support personnel, mid-level management that agrees, and then you have director level management that says, yes, that's what I want, and I am going to spend the time and sweat equity enough to find out what the requisition requirements are and the specifications should call for. Once that's done, then just to say that the purchasing department's making the final decision, they're not. They're making decisions on what's being requisitioned based on the quality of what's been previously handed to them and agreed upon. That's just the way good government works.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I say something? I just have
Yes.
a couple of questions.
Recognize. Go ahead.
What limits it to 3? Why is it just 3? The way I feel about that is, and I'm torn on this whole topic right here, because I would love to see us use local vendors. I would love to see us use local Blount County companies. And I can see where if you're only dealing with 3, you can say, well, we're going to specifically use 3 Blount County companies to bid on this project. On the other hand, I like the idea of being transparent and being out there looking for the very best. But you know, I want to make sure that every time we spend $1, we're getting the very best deal. And I'm not, and one to me takes a little away from the other. I'm not sure that you know, going from 10,000 to 25,000 and only having 3 bids, I'm torn as to whether that's that you're going to get the best bang for your buck on that for the county. You know, right now it's you know, I'm torn on this one right here, because I think the $25,000 limit with just 3 bidders, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not so sure that that we're spending. You know, what makes it have to be 3? Why can't it be 5, or why can't it be? You know, the last thing I want to hear is that we had 3 bids on a $25,000 project, and I run into 2 companies out here that said they would have bid it for a lot less, but they were never asked. That really is that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow for me. You know, so give me some insight as to why that would not ever happen.
I can speak, or you can go ahead.
Thank you. The 3 is a minimum. The 3 is not necessarily something that has to stand by. You can definitely get more in any given circumstance. Just because we increase the limit to 25,000, it does not mean that me as the purchasing director cannot specifically ask for anything to be a sealed bid. This doesn't put any additional restrictions on us as a department. It just allows us, where we see fit, to extend it to 25. So if I see something that is $10,000 and I feel like it should be a sealed bid, I still reserve the right to be able to have it be a sealed bid. And again, the 3 quotes is just a minimum. And if it's something that the committee would like to discuss, we could increase the quotes instead of 3 to 6 or 4 or 5 or whatever you would choose to do.
I'm going to make one more comment, try to address from something I see as well, in addition to that, and I totally agree. One of the things that we need to consider, or needs to be considered, is that purchasing, other than the acquisition and the use of whatever good or service is being provided, is sort of the end of the pipe. And the part of government that works best when all systems are working together is the requisition and design process for the specification. A lot of the front end decisions, or the front end or the back end trouble, can be supplanted by, you know, good front end decisions. And if, for example, you want to buy a car and you only care that it has 4 wheels and a steering wheel, then you're going to get pretty much, you know, anything for whatever the price, the lowest dollar amount that the guy can provide. However, if you need to have, a boatload of specifications, towing capacity, crash avoidance, you name it. Some of the folks that say they can provide that service probably can't, because the specification requirements are limited to industry design. And so one of the benefits of the requisition process, if done correctly, is that you go through and spend a little more time than maybe we're currently doing on actually designing the requisitions in terms of the specifications. That I can't overemphasize, to me, the requirements, the benefit of a good specification. And it takes the guesswork out of the vendor, and it takes the guesswork out of the buyer. And so what you do is you come to an agreement based on, yes, that's what we want. We've done the proper review. We've done the field tests, we've done whatever the requirements are. And so when those two people come up to you on the street and say, we didn't allow to bid, you say, well, yes, but you didn't attend the pre-bid conference, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't have the correct detail that we're requiring in terms of our specification. And so, you know, instead of trying to load up the issue of the purchasing department's fault for, you know, only having 3 vendors, it's a quality community process that identifies what the real bid buy process is in terms of designing the specification requirements. That's the trick.
I was just going to add to it. I think your statement earlier about the number of bids being written as a minimum, that is correct in my experience. And then a number, there's really no maximum cap to that. But also one thing about, you know, in relation to finding local suppliers is maybe, I don't know if there's currently a process or an approved supplier list. That's something I've often worked with, is if there's some criteria that we recognize by certain scopes of work that we know that there are local suppliers for, do they meet our criteria, our minimum criteria? And if they do, then it's really a short list, or maybe a list that the purchasing department can reference. Say, okay, we know that we have local suppliers who fit this scope of work. They meet a certain criteria that we've established. Can we recognize those companies and give them an opportunity for a bid?
That's a wonderful idea. We currently have a technology in place. It's called vendor registry, or software, I guess I should say, in place, where not just local vendors, but anyone can come and apply to do business with us. They require, when signing up for vendor registry, that you have a W-9, that you have proof of your business licensure. So that's something that we're actually trying to drive to get more people signed up for vendor registry, so we can not just use everyone, but also use local business. There's a radius check on it as well that we can use. But just as we're talking, this is not something that I've actually had a discussion with anybody before, but going back to the requesting quotes part, it's something that to drive more local quotes and to utilize more local businesses, we could just post on our website that we're requesting quotes for, and it not be a formal bid process per se, but that's another way, instead of just using the paper, to put it on our website that says we're accepting quotes until such and such day. So that could increase the amount of quotes that we can get for each individual thing.
One more thought. To me, there's nothing more satisfying and not much more compelling than a good bidding relationship between the vendor and the supplier and the buyer. If the purchasing department continues to go in the direction I think they're headed, then I think you'll see a lot of these interrelationships grow over time and to be sustained by good common appreciation for the other and respect. And out of respect grows good competitive bids. And so when you get those type of situations all headed in the right direction, then you know that you pretty well have a good functioning purchasing capability, procurement capability. It's not just purchasing, but it's procurement. People working with people.
I have one question. Do we know what the annual volume is of the bids that would fall between this 10,000 and 25,000?
Yes, ma'am. Last year it would have been only 16 bids. So it's not a vast amount of bids, but at the same time, let me say that doesn't include our reoccurring contracts, our contract renewals, but it was 16.
Since this is a general discussion, I would like to at least throw out for consideration that if we do continue to go down this path, that's fine, but the more tools in the arsenal of the purchasing department, the better, to my way of thinking. And as you can make better decisions and tighter circles with a lot more capability. And what I mean by that is, for example, if you thought about increasing or changing the requirements of your purchasing or your P cards or your purchasing capability, and let automation help you. One of the things that a purchasing card or automated purchasing card process brings you is instant verification. It also brings you the ability to make sure that not only did you want it, was it bid properly, and that somebody got it, but you know they got it, and you know how much they got it for, and you don't have to wait for a final accounting at the end of the month. And once you set that kind of thing up, then the potential for recurring large buys is actually a benefit to the entire finance department and the purchasing department, in that they become cyclical and over and over and over. And so the potential for, buying sand, buying pavement, asphalt, buying cars, buying whatever on contracts, but buying them with agent or with the capability to identify what it is that you want and pay for it fairly quickly, is another arrow in the quiver of a good purchasing department.
I did not bring it in the form of a resolution today.
Okay. I agree with the chair. Maybe go back and I guess if you're going to bring it in the form of resolution, have all the details of it specified in the resolution or in an amendment to the resolution. But I would like to look at the possibility of that 3 moving to 5 or whatever number anyone else may think about it, rather than any number greater. At 3 would not be, I would not entertain it at that number. I also would like to see in the resolution that a minimum of 50% of every one of those bids be local vendors that be included. And I could live with 75% be local vendors, but I know that's really closing the door on some aspects of things that you're having to look for that are not available locally. But I would like to see in anything we put out that it be written in there that a minimum of 50% of every bid that goes out has to include local vendors in it.
May I make a comment, I guess? I'll figure that out in a minute. I understand that, you know, the local initiative and trying to keep money local. I have a couple of thoughts on that. Let's say you're buying, I don't know, pick something I know about, fire hydrants, okay? There's only, you know, about 4 actually manufacturers that make fire hydrants. And if you're, some of the reason for going to 25,000 is that you're buying widgets that cost more than the limit, the minimum limit of the 10,000. And so there was probably a driving reason why you're going from 10 to 25 on what it is you're buying, and it may either have to do with transformers or fire hydrants or you name it. But the point is that first off, there may not be 5 vendors, and so whatever provision is made, I would like to think that we could give proof of the process to say who's an approved vendor, and if there's more than 5 or whatever than 5, if there's only 3, then I would try to not conjure 2 more and run the risk there of buying something that's inferior because somebody's trying to provide you something they're really not in a position to supply you. And so the good review process keeps the door open in terms of quality. One other thought, and that in terms of the 75 or 50%, if you're making a buy and you're buying a single item, whether it's a transformer or a car or whatever it is, it's kind of hard to split that to 50%. If you have 25 to 40 different items that have the potential for being bought from multiple places, then you might as well buy it at a lower rate. If the benefit is to buy something at $25,000, then the quantity of scale is the things that you are buying are simply that expensive, and there's probably not many ways to dissect them. So I would be a little bit concerned where you try to put a buy limit in terms of qualifications of how you spend your money as to where you spend your money. And it relies back on the professionalism of your purchasing department and your various departments to allow you to give you that kind of flexibility. But in terms of creating an arbitrary upfront on all things purchased, that might be kind of tough. Just a thought.
And I appreciate you explaining that to me, because that made my decision a whole lot easier on what I'll decide on this, because I think that just saying what you just said makes it seem to me that the sealed bid process is a whole lot more fair than the going for 3 bids up to $25,000. So I think that explanation helped me make my decision. Thank you.
So, do we want to have a call for the question as to do we bring this forward, or do we table it and maybe move on to new business? And may I also offer the fact that just because if the dollar limit changes, I think the review of all of the systems that would be associated with it would be productive. Yep. And so if the department could make as a part of that, how you modernize and communicate, I think that would be a valuable interim step to this, and you could always change your mind and even make it selective on the 25,000 based on particular items that are pre-approved.
Well, I'd like to ask the Director of Purchasing to come back with a presentation to us in resolution form on the change from 10,000 to 25,000 at the next meeting.
I'll be happy to provide that to you
with the details that go with it.
with the details correct.
Should we have a vote of intent of the, have a roll call, either agree to come back with a resolution, let's see, if, I agree with the resolution, negative, or don't really need to?
I'm sorry.
We don't need to, that to me was enough of an order. I don't think we need to.
I think any one of us could make that request. It doesn't have to be a vote.
Okay. Do we have any other business?
I do not.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that's volunteered for this. It's very much needed. It's going to be very insightful, I think, to all of you, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know that it's, every one of you here are very busy, and all of you are pretty much what I would consider to be experts in this field. You know a whole lot more about it than I do, but I really appreciate you, each of you coming on board. I appreciate my commissioner right here stepping up and being a part of this. I know how hard it is, but thank you guys very much. Wish I could get a lot more people in this community to do the same. I know Commissioner Carter does too, so thank you all very much.
Have a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. So be it.